Welcome to Craving the Heat, where desire takes the lead and every story leaves you wanting more. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments and keep up with our latest naughty stories. It had been a long week. Work had been stressful. My shoulders ached from the constant tension, and I couldn't seem to shake the sense of exhaustion that followed me around. I was looking forward to the quiet weekend ahead. My husband, James, had promised he'd help me relax, and tonight, he was going to make good on that promise. I just finished a late dinner when James told me to meet him in the living room. He had set up a cozy spot, dim lights, soft music playing in the background, and a gentle warmth from the fireplace. The moment I walked into the room, I could feel the weight of the week slowly starting to lift. "Come here," he said softly, patting the spot next to him on the couch. "Let me help you relax." I sat down beside him, and he immediately began to massage my shoulders, his touch gentle but firm. I closed my eyes, letting the tension slowly melt away. It had been a while since we had spent this much time just being together, and I felt a sense of peace I hadn't experienced in days. "I know you've had a lot on your plate lately," he murmured, continuing to work his fingers into the tight muscles. "I want to help you feel better." His words were comforting, but it wasn't just the massage that made me feel better. It was the thoughtfulness in his actions, the way he cared for me without needing to say anything more. I could feel his presence, his steady hand on my back, and it was enough to let me know that I wasn't alone in this. He worked his way down my back, his fingers skilled and gentle. I hadn't realized how much I needed this until I felt myself starting to relax, the knot in my chest loosening with every movement of his hands. I didn't realize how much tension I'd been holding onto until he started helping me release it. "You're doing so well," James whispered, his voice soft but full of care. "Just let go, I've got you." For a moment, I thought about how much our relationship had grown. We had been through so much together, good times, bad times, and everything in between. But moments like this reminded me of why we worked so well together. His presence was steady, and his ability to understand my needs, even without me saying a word, was something I deeply valued. As the minutes passed, I let go of the day's worries, focusing only on the soothing rhythm of his hands. The connection between us was tangible, not just in the physical sense, but in the emotional bond that had always existed beneath the surface. We didn't need grand gestures or constant words to communicate. There was a quiet understanding between. James slid his hands lower, massaging the muscles in my back, then gently down to my lower back. His touch was soothing, and I could feel myself becoming completely absorbed in the experience, my breath deepening, my body loosening up. "I know this week has been rough," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I just want to help you feel better, to remind you that you're not carrying this alone." The comfort in his words made me realize just how much I needed his support and how much I had taken it for granted. I'd been so caught up in the stress of life that I hadn't fully appreciated these quiet, intimate moments we shared. It wasn't about the grand plans or big displays of affection. It was about the small, everyday gestures that made me feel loved and cared for. His hands finally came to rest at the base of my neck, and for a long moment, we both stayed there. Silent, connected. I could feel the warmth of his touch lingering on my skin, the gentle pressure of his hands helping me fully relax. I hadn't realized how much I needed this simple act of care, how much I needed him until this moment. "Thank you," I whispered, turning to face him. "You don't know how much this means to me." James smiled, his eyes warm and understanding. "You don't have to thank me. I'm here for you always." And in that moment, I realized that what I needed most wasn't necessarily a solution to all of life's stresses or answers to the questions that weighed on me. What I needed was the comfort of knowing I wasn't alone, the reassurance that no matter what, we would always have each other. As the evening went on, we sat together, talking about everything and nothing at all. The tension had faded, and in its place was a quiet contentment. A peacefulness that came from knowing that love didn't always need to be expressed in grand gestures. It was often found in the simple, everyday moments where we cared for each other just as we were. And as I leaned into James, feeling his arms around me, I knew that no matter what life threw our way, we would continue to face it together, one quiet moment at a time. As the evening continued, we both found ourselves settled into a comfortable silence, the kind that didn't need words to express the shared understanding between us. I leaned against James, the soft fabric of his shirt comforting against my cheek, while the gentle hum of the night outside seemed to lull us into a peaceful space. "Remember when we used to do this more often?" I asked quietly, not needing an answer, but feeling the pull of nostalgia. When we first started dating, we'd spend hours like this, just enjoying being in each other's company. James chuckled softly, his fingers brushing my hair away from my face. "I remember life got busier, didn't it?" His voice had a gentle, almost reflective quality. "But it's never too late to go back to that." I nodded against his shoulder, appreciating the honesty in his words. Life had indeed gotten busy, and somewhere along the way we had let those small, quiet moments slip between the cracks. But tonight, it felt like we had found our way back, and I couldn't help but feel grateful for the space we had created, one of understanding, patience, and a deep-rooted connection. "I think we need to make more time for these little things," I said, lifting my head to look at him. "I've missed this, being able to just be with you, without distractions, without the noise of the world outside." James met my gaze, his eyes soft, and he smiled, that familiar warmth flooding my chest. "I've missed it too," he admitted, "and I think we're both realizing that these moments are just as important, if not more so, than anything else." We sat together for a long time, not needing to speak much, just enjoying the simple connection we shared. I felt his presence in a way that was different. From before, deeper, more grounded. The weight of the world seemed lighter with him beside me, and in that moment, I understood just how much we had grown together. It wasn't just about surviving the challenges of life. It was about choosing to find joy and peace in each other's presence, even on the toughest days. At some point, the conversation drifted back to Olivia, and we talked about the ways she had been growing. She had started to open up more, both to us and to herself, and it filled me with pride to see how far she had come. She was blossoming into a young woman who was beginning to understand the importance of vulnerability and connection. "I'm proud of her," I said, my voice filled with admiration. "She's starting to find her way, and I know it's been hard on her. But she's so much stronger than she gives herself credit for." James nodded, his gaze thoughtful. "She is, and it's amazing to watch. I know it's not easy for her having both of us in her life, but I think she's beginning to see that we're a team." The more we talked about Olivia, the more I realized how much she had started to embrace the idea of family, not just as a concept, but as something real, something she could rely on. And I knew that her growth wasn't just about her individual journey, it was about us as a family, supporting her every step of the way. James's fingers gently brushed against my hand, pulling me back from my thoughts. "I've been thinking too," he said quietly, "about how far we've come as a couple. We've had our ups and downs, but look at where we are now. We've built something real together." I smiled at him, the weight of his words settling deep within me. "We have, haven't we? It hasn't always been easy, but it's been worth it. We're not just partners in this, we're a team, and I wouldn't have it any other way." There was a brief pause, and then James leaned in, his lips pressing softly against my forehead. It was a simple gesture, but it felt like everything: the love, the trust, the deep connection we had built over time. In that moment, I realized that this was what love truly was. Not just the moments of passion or excitement, but the quiet, everyday moments where we supported, cared for, and appreciated each other. "I love you," he whispered against my skin. "More than you know." "I love you too," I replied, my voice full of emotion. "And I'm so glad we built this together." We stayed like that for a while, basking in the calm of the evening, our hearts beating in quiet sync. The world outside didn't matter in that moment. It was just the two of us, remembering the importance of taking time for each other and cherishing the connection we had created. As the night drew to a close, I knew that our journey wasn't over, it was only just beginning. We had faced challenges, but we had done so together, and that had made all the difference. We weren't perfect, but we were real, and we had learned to grow with each other in a way that strengthened us both. When we finally made our way to bed, I felt a deep sense of contentment. The stresses of the day had faded, replaced by the warmth of knowing we had each other. It wasn't just about being together, it was about being there for each other, no matter what life threw our way. And in that, I found everything I had ever wanted. The next morning, the sunlight streamed through the window, casting a soft golden hue over the room. I woke up to the sound of birds chirping outside, the world outside still slow and peaceful. I turned my head to find James still asleep, his features relaxed and content. For a moment, I just watched him, feeling a deep sense of gratitude for the life we had built together. We had come through so much growing both as individuals and as a couple, and here we were, stronger than ever. As I gently moved to get up, I noticed a soft smile spread across his face. He must have sensed my presence, even in his sleep. He opened his eyes, blinking at the light before focusing on me. "Good morning," he whispered, his voice husky with sleep, but still full of warmth. I smiled back, feeling the weight of his love settle deep in my chest. "Good morning," I replied softly, brushing a strand of hair away from my face. "I didn't want to wake you, but it's hard not to when you're this close." He chuckled, sitting up slightly, his hand reaching for mine. "I'm glad you did. I could get used to waking up with you like this every day." There was a quiet moment where we just looked at each other, the morning light surrounding us like a soft embrace. I knew that this was the kind of peace I'd been searching for, something deeper than just the passing moments of a day, but something that resonated at the core of who we were together. As I stood up and began getting ready for the day, I could feel the weight of yesterday's conversation still lingering in my mind. It had been a turning point, a reminder of how much we had grown. Our relationship wasn't just built on the big gestures, but on these quiet, everyday moments. We had learned the importance of being there for each other. In the mundane and the extraordinary, later that afternoon, we decided to go for a walk, taking the time to be outside and enjoy each other's company. As we walked hand in hand, I felt the familiar sense of comfort that always came when we were together. We talked about everything, the little things, the funny moments, the things that made us laugh. And we talked about Olivia, how proud we both were of her and how much she had blossomed. "She's doing really well, isn't she?" I said, my voice filled with pride as I looked over at James. "I'm amazed at how much she's grown, how much she's opening up. I never expected to feel so much a part of her life." James squeezed my hand gently. "You've been incredible for her. She looks up to you more than you know. And I think you've helped me see things differently, too." I glanced at him, curious. "What do you mean?" He began, his voice thoughtful. "I think I've been so focused on making sure everything's perfect that I forgot to just be present. And you've helped me realize that it's the little moments, the times when we just spend time together, that really matter." We continued walking, and I couldn't help but smile at how much he had changed over the years. David had always been a caring, loving person, but now there was a new depth to him. It wasn't just about being a good husband or a good father, it was about being present, about being vulnerable and honest, about allowing himself to grow. Along with the rest of us, as we returned home, we found Olivia in the kitchen, preparing a snack. She looked up when she saw us enter, her eyes lighting up with a smile. "Hey, you two," she greeted, her voice cheerful. "How was the walk?" "It was great," James replied, walking over to the counter and leaning on it. "How was your day?" "I had a pretty good day," Olivia said, her voice a little quieter than usual, but there was a glimmer of excitement in her eyes. "I've been thinking about the art project I want to do for my class. I've got this idea and I think it'll be really fun to try it out." I smiled at her enthusiasm. "That sounds amazing, Liv. I'm sure it'll be beautiful." She beamed at me, her eyes bright. "Thanks, Jen. I've been wanting to try something new with my painting." I want to create something that really represents who I am right now. Something that shows how far I've come. James joined in. I think that's a wonderful idea. You've got a lot of talent, Liv, and we're so proud of everything you've been doing. Olivia glanced over at both of us, her gaze softening. Thanks, Dad. And thanks, Jen. I really appreciate you both being here for me. The simple exchange between the three of us filled my heart with an overwhelming sense of love and pride. There was something about these quiet moments, these simple conversations, that reminded me just how much we had accomplished as a family. We weren't perfect, but we were real, and that was enough. Later that evening, after Olivia had gone to bed, James and I sat on the porch once again, watching the stars twinkle in the night sky. The world felt peaceful still, and it was in this stillness that I felt a deep sense of connection to him. I'm really glad we're doing this, I said softly, resting my head against his shoulder. Taking time for each other. It's made such a difference. James kissed the top of my head, his voice filled with tenderness. Me too, Jen. You've helped me realize what's really important, and I'll always be grateful for that. We sat there for a while, lost in the quiet comfort of each other's presence. I didn't need grand declarations or sweeping gestures to know that we were on the right path. It wasn't about perfection, it was about love, connection, and the small moments we shared. And as I sat there beside him, I knew that we had something special, something worth cherishing. The days continued to pass, each one adding another layer to our relationship, to our family. We navigated the challenges and celebrated the victories, always supporting each other. There were still difficult moments, of course, but we faced them together, hand in hand, and as I looked at James, I realized that love wasn't just about the easy moments. It was about showing up for each other when it was hard, when things weren't perfect. It was about being vulnerable, being open, and building something real. Something that could withstand the test of time. As the weeks went by, the changes in our family dynamic became even more apparent. Olivia continued to thrive, her art blossoming in ways we hadn't expected. It was evident in the way she approached life, now more confidently, more assured. It wasn't just about the art anymore. It was about how she was finding herself, carving her own path, and learning to embrace who she truly was. James and I, too, had grown. There were moments of deep connection between us that spoke of years of shared experience and love. The quiet mornings, the late-night conversations, the small gestures, these were the things that had built the foundation of our marriage. We were no longer just a couple. We were partners in every sense of the word. One afternoon, as we all sat together in the living room, enjoying some downtime after a busy day, Olivia suddenly stood up, her expression serious. She had that look again, the one she'd had when she was on the verge of making a big decision. She glanced between James and me, her lips slightly pressed together as if gathering her thoughts. I've been thinking a lot lately, she began, her voice steady but filled with a quiet resolve. And I think I'm ready to go to art school. I've been looking into some programs, and I really want to pursue this seriously. James and I exchanged a glance, both of us momentarily stunned by the suddenness of her announcement. But as the words sunk in, a wave of pride and admiration washed over me. Olivia was making a choice for herself, one that reflected her growth over the past year. She wasn't waiting for permission or approval. She was taking control of her future. And it filled my heart with such joy. That's amazing, Liv, James said, his voice thick with emotion. We'll support you, of course. You've worked so hard to get here. I smiled, my eyes tearing up slightly as I looked at her. You've come so far, Olivia. This is your moment, and we're so proud of you for having the courage to chase your dreams. She smiled back, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Thanks, guys. I know it won't be easy, but I feel ready. And I want to take this step. The rest of the evening was filled with discussions about the next steps, researching programs, looking into scholarships, and even the practicalities of applying. There was a lightness in Olivia that I hadn't seen in a while, a sense of empowerment. that I knew would carry her through whatever came next. That night, after we had all gone to bed, I lay awake, reflecting on everything that had led us to this point. The struggles, the growth, the love that had been nurtured over time, it had all been worth it. Our family wasn't perfect, but it was ours, and it was strong. We had learned how to lean on each other, how to support each other even when things weren't easy. James reached over in the darkness, his hand finding mine. "Jeanne," he whispered softly, "I've been thinking about how far we've come, and I just wanted to say I'm so grateful for you. For everything you've done, for everything you are. I love you." I squeezed his hand, feeling the truth of his words settle into my heart. "I love you too, James, more than I ever thought possible." The years we had spent together, the ups and downs, the moments of doubt and joy, everything had brought us to this moment. Our love wasn't just about the grand gestures or the milestones. It was about the quiet, everyday moments. It was about the way we had shown up for each other, again and again. And in those moments, I had found something deeper than I had ever. Imagine the next few months were a whirlwind of preparation, both for Olivia's art school journey and for the new chapter David and I were entering. We spent our days researching, planning, and getting everything in order. Olivia's excitement was contagious, and it seemed to reignite something in both of us, a sense of purpose that came from seeing her take her future into her own hands. Day Olivia left for art school was bittersweet. We stood at the doorstep, her bags packed and her eyes bright with excitement and nerves. James pulled her into a hug, whispering something I couldn't quite hear. I joined in, wrapping my arms around both of them, holding on a little longer than usual, knowing this was a big step for all of us. "Remember," I said, pulling back slightly, "we're always here for you, no matter what." Olivia nodded, a smile spreading across her face. "I know, I love you both. Thanks for everything." With one final wave, she climbed into the car, and we watched her drive off into the future she was so ready to embrace. It was a quiet moment, but it spoke volumes. It was a moment of transition, a moment of growth. And though we would miss her dearly, we knew it was the right step. That evening, as the house settled into a new quietness, James and I sat together side by side. There was a sense of calm that had settled over us, an understanding that we had done our part, and that now it was time for Olivia to spread her wings. James leaned his head on my shoulder, his hand finding mine once more. "We've come a long way," he said softly, "and I think we're just getting started." I smiled, looking out into the night. "I think so too. Whatever comes next, we'll face it together." And as we sat there in the warmth of our shared love and the quiet peace of knowing we were exactly where we were supposed to be, I realized that love, true love, wasn't something that happened all at once. It was something that grew, evolved, and deepened over time, like the roots of a tree. And in that love, we had found something far more lasting than we had ever expected. In the end, it was never about perfection. It was about choosing to grow together, choosing to face life's challenges as a family, and choosing to love one another through every step, no matter what the future held.